Welcome to NBA Basketball. I'm Damon Bruce. We've got you covered here on 2K Sports. Friday Hoops Fest coming up next. It's the Brooklyn Nets going up against the Indiana Pacers. And without any further ado, let's head to Kevin Harlan and the rest of the 2K Sports crew at the arena. I'll be back at halftime.
Exactly what Indiana did last season. Tough team in a tough division, and they gave no ground to other teams in the East.
And the Pacers, as you mentioned, Clark very solid against the other teams in the East as they would cruise to a 31-20 record against the rest of the conference.
And really, that's because this team is built to handle anything that's thrown at them. Yeah, but it's a big, strong, kind of old-school team that pound you inside, they rebound, they protect the paint. There aren't a lot of matchups that seem to bother this team.
Well, you look at Paul George, my man, PG 24, a young swingman out of Fresno State. Boy, he had a terrific year last season, was the most improved player last season, and a first-time NBA All-Star. And consider how young he is, just turned 23. And he's got the potential to make plenty more All-Star games. And I think he could ultimately be a Defensive Player of the Year at some time in his career.
Good on the second free throw. And for Paul George, the 10th pick back in 2010. What a terrific find for the Pacers.
Well, he was already a good player, but I think the injury to Danny Granger last season created the opportunity for George to really emerge as an all-star. And that's exactly what he did. Dangerous inside and out, excellent defensive player, has a chance to be really special. You know, he's got a quick trigger from that range when he senses that the defense is backed off.
Granger kicks to Hibbert. Kicks it out to Granger. Hill. Some nice passing here by Indiana. George passes to Scope. 5 on the clock. George. Good D by Johnson.
Well, I tell you what, that's too good a look to pass up there. Even though it didn't go, that's one you got to take.
Back to Williams. Outside, Pierce fires it up, and the rebound goes to Danny Granger.
Well, there was no hand in his face right there. I thought for sure he was going to knock that down.
And George kicks to Hibbert. A three. Danny Granger, the bucket on the existing White Hibbert.
And you know, you talk about Frank Vogel, guys, and the Pacers, it seemed he won over his roster from the moment he took over. He placed a lot of confidence and trust in his players, and most importantly, brought a breath of positivity and positive energy to that locker room and to that team. I think in that situation, that was a nice try to create some space for himself with the fadeaway.
And I think Doris Burke has something for us right now. Doris?
I had a chance to talk with the head coach for Brooklyn. They are up against Danny Granger, who is a guy who can hurt them in a lot of different ways. He talked about what his team needs to do to slow down Granger. One key will be to make sure he has to work for every shot, saying if we let him just catch and shoot in the corner, we're toast. We have to make him work for every shot he gets.
Thanks, Doris. And back to Vogel, he really helped instill the identity of this Pacers team of toughness, defense, and Steve, that willingness to battle.
That's a perfect fit with their personnel. The way he motivates his team to defend and play with that edge. I just love this group, the Pacers team, the talent, along with Frank Vogel. Just a really nice fit.
Now here's Williams, following the shot by Roy Hibbert. Johnson, that's for two. Jump shot is good that time. Johnson's got 6. Indiana's gone 1 of 2 from long range in the first quarter. On the wing, George. He's guarded by Johnson. Feeds away. And the Pacers can't get it to go.
Well, for the Brooklyn Nets, the 9th best record in the league last season. Good size inside and on the wings. They felt like they needed to ramp it up a bit to compete with Miami and LeBron James. The defense better not make a habit of giving him that shot. I mean, he doesn't miss many of them.
Williams against George. And he drops in the layup off the glass.
He really made that mismatch pay off. The defender giving up that much size isn't going to be able to put up much resistance near the basket.
Hey, Clark, you were talking about the Nets' size, the second best rebounding team in the NBA, Steve, last season.
Yeah, they really controlled the glass. Good rotation in their front court with the size and the tenacity. Now, of course, they've got additional help with Garnett and Kirilenko. So this is a team that can really hit the boards and dominate the paint. And the defense looking to protect the rim at all costs.
Yeah, I like that. A foul to save the layup. Make him earn it at the line.
Free throw drops for Hill.
Well, if the Pacers wanted to grab the attention of the league with their postseason play, they certainly did that. They marched through the first 2 rounds by knocking off the Hawks and the Knicks. And, boy, remember, they were a game away from the NBA Finals.
Here's what Brooklyn's going with right now. Andre Bloch, he's checked in for Lopez. Kirilenko comes in for Kevin Garnett. And Allen Anderson subbed in for Paul Pierce. Both free throws good for Hill. Ultimately, the Pacers would fall to the Heat, but they put them to the test. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They gained respect league-wide even more than they had going into the playoffs. It took 7 games, Clark, and you saw them all, which a lot of folks didn't see coming.
I know that's the case, and yet the way the Pacers showed such grit in that series, it indicates they can compete with anybody. And you have a defensive anchor like they do in Roy Hibbert, they've got a chance to be a championship team before long.
And here is Hill after the three-pointer from Darren Williams. Stevenson dishes to West. Kicks to Stevenson. From outside, off the mark. For Brooklyn, they've gone 50% from the field at this point, 4 of 8. Williams, defended by Mahimi. Watch the pass to Terry. From downtown, can't get it to go.
Well, head coach Jason Kidd, that's a phrase I didn't expect to hear this quickly, but Kidd wasted no time. Only a matter of weeks after he announced his retirement as a player, he was named the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And, it's going to be interesting to see the transition. Kidd, obviously great basketball IQ, so well respected as a person in the league. I think it's just a matter of time before he really finds his footing and becomes an excellent coach. Yeah, he had not established position.
You know, I prefer the refs to whistle with a block when in doubt. I thought that was a good call there.
And Brooklyn making a change here. Outside, Taylor. Pass to Anderson. There's the three, and the shot is good. And back to Coach Jason Kidd, Clark, a rookie at the coaching profession, but one of the most intelligent and respected point guards over his 19 years in the NBA.
Yeah, always respected as a leader, and his basketball IQ off the chart. So I think he's one of the few guys that could go right from playing to being a successful head coach.
They can trade 2 for 1 here.
Yeah, that's the right move. Get a good possession here, play defense, and get one more opportunity to score.
Lets it go with a 3. No good.
Boy, that's a surprising miss right there. He usually feasts on those wide open opportunities.
Watson kicks it to West. Stevenson. Offline with his 3. And it's Terry off the drive. And it's blocked. That's out of bounds. Brooklyn will retain possession. 5 seconds left to play in the first quarter.
Most of the time, that shot will go down. Or the defenders have to make sure they tag.
At the end of 1, a closely contested game so far. Pacers lead by 1. And we'll be back shortly for the start of the second quarter. As we start the second quarter, let's quickly break down the game we've seen from the Pacers so far, guys.
And you get a chance early on to see their depth. They got a nice effort from their bench players early in this game.
Yes, Steve, I tell you what, their subs have really packed the punch for them so far.
And let's catch up with our sideline reporter, Doris Burke. Doris, over to you.
Yes, Kevin, for Jason Kidd, a Hall of Fame caliber point guard in his 19 years as a player, about a week after retirement, it was announced he returned to the league as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He said, quote, "I went from being one of the oldest guys in the league to being a rookie all over again." Kevin, he said it makes him feel young again.
Nice to have him back. Thanks, Doris. Watson with it. Copeland guarded by Kirilenko. And West backs in. And fouled hard that time. They'll get to the line and shoot 2.
You gotta love the season from David West last year, coming off the ACL tear back in 2011. I think he's completely back as far as that injury is concerned. He was so good last year, particularly in the playoffs.
That free throw, no good. And David West, Clark, a locker room leader for the Pacers last season, helped lead them all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and a guy I know that you greatly admire.
Oh, my goodness. Love the way he does his work. I call him Real Deal 21. There's nothing fluffy about what he gets done, and he's so smart and so savvy in how he approaches the game, and really a lion in the locker room for the Pacers. That's why that team was so tough in many ways, particularly defensively.
Now here's Taylor, and David West gets the whistle that time. That'll be his second foul of the game.
He's jammed himself up a little bit here with that second foul. As long as he can avoid a third before the half, I think he's fine.
Kirilenko dishes to Teletovic. He feeds it to Evans. Gets it to go. Evans just got his first basket.
They were the new kid in town with all new uniforms and a new arena last season, but the Brooklyn Nets actually played at a very deliberate pace. Part of their success playing at that pace had to do with the fact that they took good care of the ball.
Here's Johnson. No good. Great D that time from Teletovic. Nets shooting around 40% from the floor here. Outside, Taylor. And no good. And a chance to take the lead. And if you saw the roster, makes complete sense for this Brooklyn team. They have guys that can get out and run, but they also have a group, Steve, that has big bodies and knows how to create offense in the half court.
Well, when you see that kind of balance offensively, great point guard play, a center who can score, then you get the help that they were able to put together in the offseason with Garnett, Pierce, Linko, Jason Terry. I mean, this is a team that really has a lot of pieces.
First free throw is good.
It was certainly a slow start to the season for the Pacers. Their veteran and leading scorer, Danny Granger, was on the shelf with a knee injury, but somehow this team found its identity around defense and the emergence of some younger players that may serve them well going forward. You get Danny Granger back with the young, emerging talent. This team should contend for a while.
He hits one and misses one, each at the line. And Granger was able to come back for them for a stretch during the regular season, but eventually had to once again miss the rest of the games. But the team had grown to where, that probably didn't derail them, as it might have, Steve, in the past.
Well, the big thing with the Pacers, Kevin, is that they have a lot of depth now across the roster. And with the emergence of Paul George, who kind of took Granger's spot, they were able to move on pretty well without him.
He almost got to that shot in time, but not quite. You can't touch the ball once it's on the way down.
Nets trail by 3. Johnson outside. Back to Taylor. Here's the pass to Pierce. That's out of bounds. Brooklyn will retain possession. Jason Terry is checked in for Brooklyn. Into Brook Lopez. And so he draws the foul on the shot. A trip to the line to shoot 2.
In my opinion, Brook Lopez, guys, quite possibly is the best scoring 7-footer in the game. He has terrific skills on the low blocks. And he's able to step out and knock that outside shot down from out to the three-point line.
That's good from Lopez. And for Brook Lopez last season, Steve, almost 20 points a game, shooting over 50%.
His best season ever, Kevin. I think he's really evolved into one of the top centers in the league. A big-time, elite interior threat. And as you know, that's kind of rare these days in the NBA.
Lopez hits them both.
It seems for the past few years, the only time you heard about Brook Lopez's name was in what the Nets would give up for Dwight Howard. I mean, well, all of that talk goes away now, at least for a minute, because he signed that extension with the Nets. And because of that, I think he was more comfortable, and it showed in his production on the floor.
And Doris Burke has a report for us from the sideline.
Yes, guys, the Brooklyn Nets going all in this season. With a team payroll of about $100 million, they have an additional luxury tax bill of around $75 million. Guys, the owner's sparing no expense in constructing this roster. But no question, a high burden of expectation for what they'll achieve. It's championship or bust.
No doubt about that. Thank you, Doris. And so it's Indiana with it after the miss from Kevin Garnett. And it's Johnson penetrating. 6 on the shot clock. Watson, the pass to Johnson. No good with the triple. And for Brook Lopez, a max contract going into last season. Raised some eyebrows for sure, but the way he's elevated his game, it looks like right now he's been worth every penny.
Yeah, I agree with that. First-time All-Star, he improved as a shot blocker and a rebounder. I thought he should have gotten maybe some votes at least for most improved player last season. Big reason why the Nets improved so much.
That's a good point. And so it's Indiana with it after the miss from Joe Johnson. Gets it to go. Now it's a 6-point Indiana lead.
Can't pass up.
Closing in on 4 minutes played here in the second quarter.
An up and down season for the Nets last year, and the playoffs were just more of the same. They ended up getting knocked out by the Bulls in the only first-round matchup that went to 7 games.
Pierce, smooth as silk on the finger roll. Pierce has got his first basket of the night. Hill against Taylor. Johnson attacking. And a foul on the shot. He'll go to the stripe for 2. That's on Brook Lopez. Well, back to the Nets in the playoffs. They lost a game at Barclays early and looked to be on the ropes down 3-1 after 4 games, but they did well just to steal one in Chicago and force a game 7.
What a strange series that was. The Bulls made that miracle comeback behind Nate Robinson in 1 game and then ended up going on the road to Brooklyn and winning game 7. What a disappointment for the Nets in their debut season in Brooklyn.
You know, last season for the Nets, high expectations, guys. They were the runaway pick to be the most improved team in the league, and ownership stressed that their goal was nothing less than a championship. They had a bumpy stretch at one point, steadied themselves, but still the 3rd head coach now in the span of a year.
And he sinks the 2nd. And when the coaching change was made for the Nets, a lot was made of some of the comments by Darren Williams. Steve admitting that he'd been more comfortable with the offense in Utah.
Well, which is kind of ironic because when he was in Utah, sometimes he complained about the style of play. I think the big thing is for Darren Williams, his teams just have to win, and he has to lead. He's being paid as a superstar, and it's up to him to lead his club. And I think that's what he's trying to do this year. You've got to like what they've been doing down there in the low post part.
I do. I love it. Their rebounding has been outstanding. So important in a tight game.
Now, here is George. Scola. Lopez covering. It's Scola with the drive.
He's made a name for himself in the league as being one of the best undersized 4s out there. And Louis Scola can go up against somebody who's much taller than him and still find a way to pump fake his way to a hoop.
Well, free throw drops for Scola. And Brooklyn making a change here. Terry's checked in. That's also good. So he hits both free throws. Here's Johnson. 6 points for him. They need a good offensive possession.
Yeah, they've had a number of empty ones, a long time without a basket.
I got to find something. You're right. Lopez, no luck. And Scola, Steve, at 6'9", not the biggest or most athletic player certainly on the floor, but he does a good job on the glass. He seems to be a very solid player.
And he plays very physically on defense. He's not afraid to get into it. Probably struggles to defend the more athletic players, but I think Scola is one of the smarter, savvier players we have in this league.
There's 53 seconds left in the first half. Terry against Hill. Terry off the pick from Garnett. Terry kicks to Lopez. Four on the shot clock. Johnson fires from the wing. Offensive rebound. Lopez, no luck.
And are they ever working inside? Good job on the glass.
Excellent job on the glass, Steve. I agree. I mean, they're battling in there. They're fighting, they're scrapping, they're clawing, and they're getting the job done.
And they've set up countless buckets off assists. That's a huge part of what they've been doing here today.
A lot of dime dropping going on out there, Steve.
Here's George.
The lead just grows on that ridiculous offensive sequence.
You know, Clark, that dunk alone would have been spectacular. Never mind it coming at the end of an alley-oop.
Yeah, that just added more to it.
Yeah, what a beautiful connection on that play.
Here's Williams. The finger roll finish at the bucket. Williams has got 5.
That finish brings me back to the old days, the silky smooth finger roll.
And we've reached halftime in this one. Pacers out in front, up by 12. And get ready now for the Sprint Halftime Show with Damon Bruce. The second half will be coming up right after that on 2K Sports.
And now, brought to you by Sprint.
Thursday is always a great night for basketball on 2K Sports. So let's look back at first half action. Indiana with a lead against Brooklyn. Textbook defense play on their part. You couldn't draw it up any better. Danny Granger off to a good start. He's got 6 points and has also grabbed a couple rebounds. And this dedicated Nets team is weathering the storm. Hard to find a lot to like about their performance so far. They'll need to pay much better attention in the second half to the details. The details. Some nice play so far from Joe Johnson. At over 50% of his shots, you know he's happy about the first half he just turned in. And that's going to do it. We'll send you back to the game in Indianapolis. The third quarter is coming up next.
The Sprint Halftime Report, presented by Sprint.
I think even more significant given the amount of extra defensive help was paid to him.
Yeah, but for him, it's nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, we don't expect anything less. And I'll bet he continues to do the same kind of damage through the final 2 quarters.
And Lopez throws it down. Well, as far as the defense goes, Clark, that is not what's going to keep them in this league.
Yeah, but from the other perspective, you can see just how much that dunk pumped those players up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, guys. I sense a little bit of a momentum shift here.
Here's George. After the basket by Brooklyn. Granger misses.
Indiana had perhaps the toughest defense in the league. They just didn't have any weaknesses defensively. If you attacked them inside, they were able to challenge you at the rim. You tried to shoot over them, they would challenge you with their length on the perimeter. And they didn't back down. So it's not a surprise they were near the top in every defensive category.
Now Williams, following the miss by Granger from deep. Williams gets the bucket.
And that's a difficult shot in the face of a defender that towers over.
It gives him a chance to show what a strong finisher he is.
Pacers leading by 8. And Clark, the numbers back up what you were saying about the Pacers. A lot of stat hands will look at opponents' effective field goal percentage as a measuring stick for defense. And the Pacers team were the best in the league at that.
Well, they pass the eye test, that's for sure, Kevin. I mean, they challenge every shot. They get out to the three-point line. They block shots at the rim. And there's a reason this team is so good at the defensive end.
Here's Johnson. Roy Hibbert picking up that last basket. Here's up top. Back to Johnson. Releases. Here's Lopez. So he gets the whistle. Contact on the way up and 2 shots coming up.
Well, it didn't take long for Brook Lopez to become a factor in the middle. As soon as he came into this league, he was scoring and rebounding at a pretty good rate. You know, you watch him, he's not overwhelming, but he's got a nice set of low post moves, and he's athletic enough to get those shots off from either block.
Something else with Brooks, Steve, is he's such a consistent player that it's very hard for him to have an off game. His game doesn't fluctuate a whole lot. He's pretty steady. He'll find a way to score either from the line with his excellent free throw shooting or with his back to the basket.
That one is no good.
A slight advantage for them in the rebound category. They've got to continue their work on the glass.
Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I mean, they're on the right side of the ledger, and that is all that matters to them right now with the lead they have.
Now here's Granger. He has 6. Pass to Scola. Good. And the Pacers lead by 11. Now a timeout.
Basically was trying to overcome a torn patella tendon in his left knee. Had to be terribly frustrating for him.
And now around 2 minutes gone by in this half. Johnson outside. Back to Williams. He dishes it to Pierce. Johnson outside. This one for three. But they recover it. Moves back up. And the officials whistle a foul on the shot. The bucket's good. He'll go to the line. And a long road back for Danny Granger.
Yeah, I know the frustration dealing with a lot of knee issues of my own in my career. It's difficult when you have to face that year after year. Hopefully Granger will be able to come back and maintain that, or regain, I should say, that all-star form that he once showed. He could be a huge addition to this Pacer team.
A team right on the cusp. Yep. Now, here is George. He's got 5. Granger outside. Knocked away. George dishes to Hill. Passes it to Granger. Indiana moving the ball over. Outside, George. Back to Granger. From past the arc. Can't get it to go. And it's the Nets taking it the other way.
You know, a lot has been said about the Pacers and their defense, but in addition to them being great with their positioning and skill, they're one of the toughest and most rugged teams to deal with, both mentally and physically. They really pride themselves on playing smash mouth basketball, and don't hesitate to get into your airspace and get in your face.
Brooklyn shooting their 6th and 7th free throws in the game. And he knocks down the first one. And Clark, back to what you said, the Pacers did get in a few games last year where tempers flared and players got in each other's faces. But, you know, Steve, you look back at all the great defensive teams in NBA history, and not a lot of them were a group of amicable guys.
It's true. I mean, this is a great defense, and sometimes you have to ruffle feathers and get in people's faces in terms of being tough and gritty defensively. I think the Pacers understood that.
Johnson hits them both.
You look at the Joe Johnson trade for the Nets. They picked up his max contract from the Hawks, committing $80 million over 4 years. But last season, his lowest point output in over a decade, down season overall. But hey, there's a lot of talent on this team. He's not expected to score as much anymore.
Now here's Pierce. Now the Pacers moving it up. Here's Hill. Hammers it in and taking it the length of the floor.
Boy, how's that for a quick possession?
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, he didn't waste any time getting down the court, did he?
And for the Nets, they started the season doing some of that isolation offensively for Joe Johnson that we saw in Atlanta, Clark.
And even with the most efficient individual scorers, that's not usually the way to go offensively over the long haul. With Joe going through a bit of a lull in terms of his shooting percentages, I thought they might have been better served to anchor the offense around Brook Lopez inside.
Solid rebound there. With a score like it is, that's an area that you can't afford to get lazy with.
You know, I think the effort's been there, Steve, but they're still getting outworked just by a scope.
Now, here is Hill. Outside Scola. He kicks to Granger. Scola, a screen on Johnson. And really deep through that time. And it's 9 points for Danny Granger.
Well, he found a perfect spot behind the arc there. Big gap in the defense.
Watch sets the pick for Williams. Lets it go from deep. Rebounded by Luis Scola. Pacers leading by 11. On the wing, George. And the Pacers another 3.
That's 2 straight quick three-pointers they've allowed.
They better not make it 3 straight, because now all of a sudden you're looking at a hot streak.
Johnson outside. The dish to Blush. It's Pierce on the wing. Johnson outside. And just miss after miss right now.
Well, he hasn't had much success shooting the ball, but it's not too late for him to get it turned around and start contributing. This has been a one-sided game in just about every area. The league continues to grow.
Absolutely. Their offense and their D have been equal parts outstanding.
About 7 seconds separating the shot and game clocks. It's Williams with the drive. All sorts of time. Gets it to go. Williams has got 4 points now in the quarter.
You know, he's knocking down his shots today, but it hasn't really translated to the scoreboard yet.
Dishes it to Stevenson. Granger outside. Feeds it to Hill. Back to Granger. Kicks it to Hill. Outside, George. And it would have counted had it fallen, but it's offline. And here at the end of the third quarter, it's a double-digit ball game. Pacers lead by 14. And right after this, we'll bring you the start of the final quarter right here on 2K Sports. And thanks again for joining us. Let's see what happens here in the fourth.
Stories has been the three ball. It's been a key part of their offense throughout the game.
And their passing also continues to be outstanding, Clark. In the second half, we're really seeing a good, efficient offense as a result of that ball movement.
Watson gets to George. And here's Watson. Back to George. There's the feed to Watson. Indiana moving the ball over. Here's West. Brooklyn with the rebound. Williams attacking, and he dunks it down. Out of this world, aerial skills for a guy of his size.
Kevin, that's what separates him from some of the other point guards around the league. The ability to rise and throw it down.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that spurs them on. Maybe sparks a little bit of a comeback here.
Nets trail by 14. And they will get the basket here, folks, as they rule goaltender.
He didn't get to that one quite in time, Kevin. Those can be tough to gauge sometimes.
And you can hear the reaction of the fans to that call.
Well, it's obvious they did not like it, Steve.
Paul Pierce is checked in for Brooklyn. And that's out of bounds. Indiana will retain possession. We're just over a minute into this final quarter of play. Watson, the pass to George. And the bucket counts, and he's on his way to the free throw line. Trying to make it a three-point play.
Exceptional play to take the bump and still get it up and down.
Yeah, way to stay with it and look to finish the play right there.
Free throw good from George.
Well, it's not often you find a player like Paul George who, as tall as he is, can play two guard. But when you do, you're going to see some really big numbers in rebounding from him. And that's what George does. He wants to average double-digit rebounds.
Now here's Garnett. Back to Williams. Shoots from the high post. He clangs that one off the back iron, and down it falls. Williams has got 6 in the quarter.
Well, after a horrible half of shooting, they bounced back here in the second half and picked up their shooting percentage quite nicely.
George gets a screen from Mahimi. Stevenson dishes to George. He feeds it to Watson. Takes the three-point bomb. But you mentioned the height of Paul George. 6'8" when he was drafted. He actually grew to 6'10" in his rookie season, Steve. So he's a young guy that's continuing to grow both on the floor and physically.
Yeah, he may be 7'2" by his fourth year. I'll tell you, though, he gives you power forward size and rebounding with guard skills. It's easy to see why the Pacers are so excited about him.
Does he remind you of anybody in particular?
A bit like Scottie Pippen, early in his career. Maybe not quite as strong as Scottie, but a similar skill set.
It's a +5 advantage for them in the rebounding category after that board.
Very steady work they've been doing on the interior, no question. And that's, I think, the main reason they have this lead.
It's going to be 2 free throws. Drew contact on the shot.
With so many injuries to his team during last season, Paul Pierce easily could have taken things like this, but he just doesn't roll that way. I mean, as a matter of fact, he played through a pinched nerve in his neck just to stay on the court when his team needed him. He is truly one of the all-time great players in the league and one of the outstanding Celtics of all time, too. And that's saying a lot with all of the Hall of Famers that have worn the green and white.
And back to Paul Pierce last season. With Rajon Rondo out with that horrible ACL tear, he really carried the Celtics.
Yeah, especially offensively. I mean, we saw the drain on his efficiency, the lowest field goal percentage for him in 9 years, but he still can shoot threes, still gets to the foul line. They relied on him an awful lot last season.
Pierce hits 2. A little over 2.5 minutes have passed here in the fourth quarter. Pacers leading by 11. Hill kicks to Granger. Hill passes to Hibbert. It's back to Hill. Clock at 6. Pass to Granger. He drains it as the shot clock ticks down. And the Pacers lead by 13. And Stevenson's checked in for Indiana. Catch up with Doris from the sideline.
I was able to listen in on what the Nets coach was going over with his team. He told them that they simply have to step up, saying if we don't make a move now, it's going to be too late. Give them everything you've got. Kevin?
Nets trail by 13. Now here's Williams. Back to Garnett. And he was fouled in the act of shooting. Chance here now for a three-point play.
Okay, that's more like it. A nice job here in the second. And their field goal percentage is way up compared to what they did in the first half, where they shot a very low percentage. It actually was just above 30%.
A free throw drops for Garnett.
I like that they haven't lost their aggressiveness here in the second half, despite trailing in this game.
Well, that's when you need to be most aggressive when you're down. Another good job of drawing contact and getting to the line.
Two shots.
First one falls for Paul George. He's checked in for Lance Stevenson. Scola hits them both.
You can talk about a lot of other power forwards around the league, and even though Louis Scola never really explodes for monster games, a lot of his opponents will tell you he's one of the toughest guys to deal with because he's so consistent and has a lot of versatility to his offensive game. Boy, you got to love that assist by Darren Williams.
Hill drives in. Out of bounds. Pacers ball as Indiana keeps possession. And Indiana making a change here. Stevenson's checked in. Over 3.5 minutes through the final quarter now. Hill dishes to George. He's against Williams. Shoots a fader. The shot by George, no good. Speaking of Luis Scola, two-time MVP of the Spanish League. Didn't come to the NBA until his late 20s. But boy, when he arrived, he made a difference.
He was ready to go immediately because of his experience in Europe, where he was a go-to scoring threat. And he can do a lot of things offensively, whether it's posting up or making that mid-range jump shot.
Now here is Hill. After the miss from Joe Johnson, Hill kicks to Hibbert. It's back to Hill. Hibbert with a screen on Pierce. Just 5 on the clock. Indiana needs to get a shot off. And Scola, here we go now. Misses the layup. Nets trail by 9. Williams kicks to Pierce. Lopez sends a screen for Pierce. Kept alive. Back to Williams. He passes to Garnett. Garnett is doubled. Outside Pierce. Nice ball movement by Brooklyn. And the basket good. 10 points for Joe Johnson. Pacers leading by 7. And it's Hill penetrating. Stoll kicks to Hill. Outside, George. Shot clock at 6. Right side, George. And the shot clock expires. 24-second violation. Timeout call for the Nets. 44 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Seconds left in the fourth quarter. Offensive rebound. Here's Lopez and Hibbert with the block. And he gets it back. They retain possession.
And you got to like the defense inside, really protecting the rim.
Challenging shots and making his presence felt around the rim. That's exactly what he can give you.
Now, here is Hill. Outside, George. 6 to shoot. George gets a screen from Hibbert. And George, here we go. Used the screen and took it all the way.
Well, that's a wrap, fellas. No way you come back in this one.
Not anymore. Any chance of that happening went out the window a while ago.
11 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Johnson outside. Finds the bottom of the bucket from 13 feet out. So it's Indiana picking up the win. They pulled off this win, Clark, with respectable performances on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I think it was just really a nice overall effort.
Thank you for joining us for this presentation of the NBA on 2K Sports. For Clark, Stephen Norris, and the rest of the crew, this is Kevin Harlan saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Last but not least, here is your Jordan Player of the Game, Paul George.